faithfully delivering value, interpreting great books from around the world. Hello, this is Sally's Book Talk. Today, the book we're discussing is called Brain Repair Manual, with the subtitle, Is Your Brain Sick? In modern society, almost everyone is troubled by various psychological or mental issues. For example, do you feel your memory is deteriorating? When studying or working, do you often get distracted and struggle to maintain focus? Do setbacks easily discourage you, making you dwell on the negative? Actually, these mental patterns indicate your brain may be unwell. Does your brain show these symptoms? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section. I really struggle. Today's Brain Repair Manual has 19 chapters. Each explores brain-related issues like stress resilience, focus, creativity, memory, depression, and anxiety, uncovering causes behind psychological struggles, and offering cognitive behavioral solutions to heal your brain. Block CEO G13 praised it as China's rare hardcore psychology and neuroscience primer. Author Yao Nailan holds a psychiatry PhD from HKU and did postdoctoral research at Yale, specializing in psychology, psychiatry, and neuroscience. Maywell work in D. Haid. He founded Cool Brain, a science media brand teaching brain optimization methods to solve cognitive challenges. Now, I'll explain the book's core ideas through two perspectives. First, leveraging brain mechanisms to enhance daily life. Second, the brain mechanisms underlying mental disorders, and how can we improve them? Let's begin with part one, using brain science to optimize daily life. From learning to speak as infants to mastering skills as adults, memory underpins all life experiences. The hippocampus is the brain's key memory structure. Named for its seahorse-like shape, the hippocampus temporarily stores memories, much like a computer's cache, meaning what you're learning now is temporarily held in your hippocampus. Over the next few hours or days, the brain transfers this knowledge into the cerebral cortex through electrical activity, turning it into long-term memory. In the cerebral cortex, every detail of a memory is stored in different neurons, and numerous neurons connect to form a memory network. Repeated practice can strengthen the connections between neurons in the memory network. And to make memories solid, like memorizing English words, you need repeated recitation to retain them. If we take time to review words during study breaks, while playing games, or going out, it can significantly boost memory and learning efficiency. This is because when engaging in highly engaging activities or in a new environment, the brain releases more dopamine, acting on the hippocampus, which helps build stronger, more durable memory networks. And that is, additionally, regular aerobic exercise, drinking coffee, getting good sleep, and consuming foods rich in monounsaturated fats like olive oil, avocados, and nuts also benefit memory. So, besides memory, the hippocampus also regulates our response to stress. In modern society, everyone faces various kinds of stress, such as exams, job hunting, relationships, breakups, natural disasters, and so on. But facing the same stress, some people become anxious, collapse, even develop mental illnesses like depression or PTSD, while others become more resilient. Why is that? A key factor causing this huge difference is psychological resilience. Psychological resilience refers to a person's adaptability when facing stress and adversity. The stronger the psychological resilience, the greater the ability to withstand setbacks. Research shows that under stress, the body secretes a substance called glucocorticoids. The greater the stress, the more is secreted. Let's call it stress hormone. A larger, healthier hippocampus helps people better cope with stress hormones, enhancing psychological resilience and making them less likely to be overwhelmed by stress. Besides the hippocampus, a well-developed prefrontal cortex can also enhance psychological resilience. The prefrontal cortex is located at the front of the brain and is mainly responsible for rational thinking. When facing stress, a well-developed prefrontal cortex helps people better control negative emotions and make more beneficial decisions. The hippocampus and prefrontal cortex are both important parts of the brain's reward system. It allows people to experience feelings of reward and excitement, Under stress, a well-developed hippocampus and prefrontal cortex can keep the reward system active, preventing us from being discouraged by setbacks. So, how can we develop a stronger hippocampus and prefrontal cortex to enhance psychological resilience?
The author recommends 4 methods in the book, starting with exercise. Neural stem cells in the hippocampus can generate new hippocampal cells. Aerobic exercise extends the lifespan of neural stem cells, promotes cell growth, thereby increasing hippocampal volume and enhancing psychological resilience.
The second method is mindfulness meditation practice.
Research shows mindfulness meditation keeps the prefrontal cortex more active.
Helping you shed negative emotions like anxiety and fear more quickly. Mindfulness means being aware of and focusing on present inner experiences, like emotional states or bodily sensations. When starting, find a comfortable sitting position, relax your body, focus on one target, like your breathing rhythm, fully immersing in the present without overthinking. As you gain skill, reduce focus on specific targets and instead tune in to present experiences, such as surrounding sounds, visuals, scents, etc. The third method is cognitive reappraisal, psychologically reinterpreting stress. When facing stress, if you believe it exceeds your capacity, you'll perceive it as a threat and develop negative emotions. But often, you're overestimating the severity of the stressful event. You actually have the capability to solve this, but develop an I can't mindset. Cognitive reappraisal replaces this distorted thinking with objective evaluation, believing you can cope, reducing your body's stress response. The fourth method is increasing your sense of control over events. After overcoming stressful events, people gain mastery experiences. More challenges conquered means stronger control, building confidence for new pressures. So, to build psychological resilience, gradually create opportunities to overcome difficulties. For example, needing to present at a conference, but fearing poor performance. Start by practicing with simple, familiar topics for small audiences, building confidence step by step. In modern society, many people use their phones to temporarily escape ubiquitous stress, gaming, scrolling short videos, becoming increasingly dependent on them. While phones bring convenience, they also significantly damage our focus. Ever experienced this? You're focused on a report. Suddenly your phone vibrates. You instinctively grab it. Just an entertainment news notification. You habitually scroll through news, and when you realize you should be working, half an hour's gone. Why are we so easily distracted by interruptions? It relates to how our brains are wired. Our brains actually crave novel stimuli. This evolutionary trait protected our ancestors. Imagine ancient hunters lost in wilderness when a low growl echoes nearby. Their first instinct, locate the sound. If it's a nearby lion, immediate flight was crucial. This survival mechanism got hardwired into our brains. Sometimes we drift off even without external distractions, like zoning out during a work presentation after minutes, wondering about dinner plans. Why? This is actually our brain's default mode network at work. What's the default mode network? Our brains contain over 100 billion neurons forming specialized networks, like auditory, visual, attention networks, similar to factory departments. The default network activates during wakeful rest, enabling free-flowing thoughts. Simply put, it's the brain region active during daydreaming. When focused, our attention network suppresses the default network to concentrate resources. But our brains are inherently sensitive to changing stimuli.
Thus, during prolonged focus, the brain deems the task unimportant, loses interest, and attention weakens.
Just like staying in a fragrant room makes you stop noticing the scent over time, that's when the default network takes advantage. You get distracted. So how can we improve focus and avoid distraction? The author offers 4 suggestions. First, reduce distractions. Maintain a quiet environment and limit phone use. The author specifically notes, putting your phone in another room boosts focus more than just silencing it. Additionally, multitasking habits also disrupt attention. For example, working while chatting on WeChat makes true focus difficult, so avoid frequent task switching. Second suggestion, briefly switch tasks since brains crave novelty. Don't overextend on single activities. While studying English, every 20 to 30 minutes, deliberately shift focus. Solve a math problem, then resume to keep attention networks active.
Third suggestion, maintain energy through rest, sufficient sleep, and proper nutrition. When the brain is low energy, attention networks can't properly suppress the default network, making concentration difficult. Fourth suggestion, aerobic exercise. The frontal lobe is crucial for attention networks. ADHD focus difficulties relate to delayed frontal lobe development and impaired suppression of the default network.
Research shows aerobic exercise enhances frontal lobe function, thereby improving focus, similar to physical benefits from movement. As mentioned earlier, meditation also boosts focus by optimizing frontal lobe function. We now know default network activation causes distraction, but does that mean it's entirely harmful? Actually, no. The default network plays vital roles in life, especially through creativity. From major innovations like computers and antibiotics to everyday solutions like removing oil stains, all stem from creative processes. Default network neurons span brain regions, and their extensive connections enable association and imagination. That's where creativity comes from. Kids often have tons of creativity because their frontal lobes aren't fully developed yet, so they suppress the default network less, letting neurons interact more freely and spark richer ideas. Thanks to genetics, some folks have stronger links between far apart neurons in their default network than others. They're good at disconnecting from the attention network when imagining and focusing on firing up the default network. So they're born creative, but hey, creativity can be developed too. So how do we nurture creativity? The author gives tips for both kids and adults. First up, for kids' creativity, give them more alone time, not jam-packed with tutoring classes. Think about it. If a kid's focused in class, then slammed with homework after, they just don't have the time. They can't switch from learning mode to creative mode, so no wild imaginings happen. Second method, broaden kids' horizons to spark more inspiration.
Like, take them outdoors, to social games. Creative ideas don't just pop up. You need to stockpile material in your brain. Then neurons rearrange it creatively.
So, exposing kids to new stuff builds their creative bank and ups creativity. Third, encourage kids to do things because they love it, not for rewards. Say, if you tie learning to theme park trips, kids see learning as just a chore. But if you help them find fun in learning, it sparks flexible brain connections and creativity. It's not just kids. Adults can boost their creativity too. First, broaden your horizons. This works for adults too. Read a lot, learn skills, team up. More knowledge in the brain means more creative sparks. The second method is to overthink less during tasks. When doing creative work like painting, excessive focus actually suppresses the default network and stifles creativity. Think a bit less. For example, when painting, don't obsess over every detail. Let your brush flow naturally, and inspiration will spark more easily. Third is increasing psychological distance. What's psychological distance?
Anything not happening here and now to us carries psychological distance.
For instance, last year's events have temporal psychological distance. U.S. events have geographical distance if you're in China. With close psychological distance, you focus on concrete details. But viewing things distantly lets you think holistically, connecting unrelated concepts creatively. Hence the saying, fools look at the finger, not the moon it points to. So create psychological distance by shifting perspectives. For example, imagine your situation happening to someone else, or in a distant place, past or future. All spark creative ideas. All right, that concludes part 1. Daily life. Use neuroscience-backed techniques to boost memory, resilience, focus, and creativity. But modern struggles extend far beyond these. Per the 2022 World Mental Health Report, nearly 1 billion people globally suffer mental disorders like anxiety and depression. So what brain mechanisms underlie these illnesses?
And how can we address them?
That's part 2's focus today. I'll explore 3 aspects: depression, anxiety, and OCD. First, depression. affects 300 million people globally each year. 800,000 die by suicide due to it. Research shows depressed patients have smaller hippocampal volumes, causing memory decline, but timely treatment can restore it. Beyond the hippocampus, depression also impacts frontal lobe activity, disrupting the brain's reward circuit, causing loss of interest and disproportionate disappointment when expectations aren't met, even triggering extreme thoughts like life being worthless. So, what methods can relieve depressive symptoms? The author outlines 4 approaches. First, exercise significantly improves stress-induced depression. In animal studies, stressed mice release a substance called kynurenine. Kynurenine can enter and affect brain function, increasing depression risk. Exercise boosts an enzyme that converts kynurenine into kynurenic acid, which can't cross the blood-brain barrier, reducing its impact. This process essentially detoxifies the brain, alleviating depressive symptoms. Second method, light therapy. Scientists found mice kept in darkness for 4 weeks developed fewer new hippocampal cells and became depressed. Conversely, studies show depression patients sitting before light boxes for 30 minutes after waking effectively combat depressive moods. The box mimics summer dawn brightness around 7 a.m., so spending morning time outdoors significantly improves symptoms. Third method, social support. Depression patients often ruminate on negative thoughts, trapping themselves, but conversations with loved ones break this cycle and reduce emotional fixation.
Fourth is psychotherapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, works well for mild depression.
With therapist guidance, patients learn that depressive suffering stems not from events themselves, but from negative thought patterns. Then practice cognitive restructuring and replacing distorted negative thoughts with realistic perspectives. But in China, high therapy costs and therapist shortages limit access. Many opt for medication after diagnosis.
For mild depression patients, medication and psychotherapy have similar effectiveness, but drugs carry side effects and may cause relapse after discontinuation.
However, for severe depression, medication under medical supervision is essential, since patients often lack energy and motivation for therapy. Beyond conventional approaches, scientific advances have introduced new technological treatments for depression. For example, neurofeedback therapy involves MRI scans where patients view their brain activity via feedback technology. Patients then consciously regulate brain activity while observing it, aiming to alleviate depression. But high costs keep this method experimental rather than widely adopted. Beyond depression, anxiety disorders are modern society's second common mental illness. Rapid socioeconomic development exposes everyone to various anxieties: separation anxiety, academic stress, social anxiety. Some experience impending doom without specific triggers. Excessive worry causes palpitations, muscle tension, and restlessness, uncomfortable yet evolutionarily vital responses. When ancestors faced threats like grizzly bears, brains instantly diverted resources to muscles, elevating heart rate, boosting cardiac output, dilating blood vessels while suppressing digestion and salivation, prioritizing fight or flight energy. But modern grizzly bears are exams or projects, unresolvable by fighting or fleeing, trapping us in discomfort without physical release, causing chronic anxiety. The amygdala generates negative emotions. Anxiety patients' amygdalae react more intensely and persistently. Minor stressors trigger extreme responses, making daily events overwhelming. For example, heading to a dinner party, an anxiety patient might stress beforehand. What topics to discuss? What to wear? Will my expressions seem natural? Are my hands positioned right? Such thoughts trigger anxiety responses like restlessness, palpitations, and sweating. Therefore, suppressing amygdala-driven emotional reactions and psychologically reframing situations can alleviate anxiety. The author suggests 4 anxiety reduction methods. First, cognitive behavioral therapy. Similar to depression treatment, what worsens anxiety isn't events themselves, but negative thought patterns. Replacing distorted thoughts with accurate cognition yields significant improvement. Statistics show 45% to 55% of people experience reduced anxiety after CBT. Similar to practical adaptation, reframe stressors like work deadlines or social interactions not as threats but routine challenges. Do your best and accept outcomes to self-manage anxiety. And second method, meditation practice. Meditation enhances frontal lobe function, using rationality to suppress amygdala-generated negativity. Third method, break down goals. When overwhelmed by projects, repetitive worrying about execution and potential failures, this fuels anxiety. Instead, divide big goals into small steps, write them down, and methodically complete each. Focusing on present tasks avoids uncontrollable future projections, preventing obsessive negative forecasting and anxiety. For instance, facing financial pressure and wanting quick solutions, if you just obsess daily, what if I go broke? It's like our ancestors staring at a tiger, pure attention with zero payoff. But identifying actionable steps, like finishing projects or upskilling, knowing you're progressing reduces anxiety.
Fourth method, aerobic exercise. Research shows aerobic exercise boosts neurotrophic factors, enhancing cognition and mood.
The author recommends jogging, swimming, or badminton for 3 to 10 hours weekly.
Because this exercise intensity and frequency mimics the body's muscle state during fight or flight responses to threats.
This signals the brain that the threat has been dealt with, allowing relaxation. Regarding anxiety disorders, the author highlights social anxiety, also called social phobia. Statistics show 1 in 20 people experience social anxiety. Socially anxious individuals feel fear in social settings, dreading being the center of attention, public speaking, etc. Beyond the 4 general anxiety methods, the author offers 4 specialized self-regulation techniques for social anxiety. First, reinterpret physiological reactions and accept discomfort. What does this mean? During social anxiety, you experience racing heart, trembling, sweating. Since excitement causes identical reactions, reframe these sensations as enthusiasm. You're facing an engaging activity, not a threat. Accepting discomfort reveals your fears are manageable, building confidence. Second method, breath control. Neurons regulating breathing also modulate panic. Slow, deep breaths restore calm. Third method, shift focus to conversation content. For example, during presentations, concentrate solely on your material.
Not on your performance.
Fourth method, adopt a judge's mindset.
In talent shows, contestants stress over judges' opinions while judges remain relaxed.
Social anxiety comes from seeing yourself as a contestant. Instead, treat others as contestants. Evaluate their voice, appearance, behavior, freeing yourself from embarrassment fears.
This liberation effectively reduces anxiety. The third mental illness I'll discuss is obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD. Some mistakenly equate habits like extreme tidiness, frequent hand-washing, or lock-checking with OCD. Not quite. Everyone occasionally double-checks things, like reviewing answers after a test, but these habits don't disrupt daily life. OCD sufferers spend at least an hour daily on compulsive rituals, hand-washing, lock-checking, just to temporarily ease anxiety. They recognize their thoughts and behaviors as irrational, yet uncontrollable, causing severe life disruption. OCD may relate to dysfunction in the brain's reward system. As mentioned earlier, an active reward system provides feelings of reward and excitement, boosting resilience and alleviating depression. Additionally, the reward system shapes habits. When repeating actions, like pedaling a bike, the reward system bundles them into automatic habits, operating subconsciously without frontal lobe oversight. In OCD brains, an overactive reward system creates rigid habits. Even meaningless actions bypass rational control. For example, some OCD patients must repeatedly put on or remove clothes 3 times before leaving home.
They know it's meaningless, but skipping it causes unbearable discomfort.
Anterior cingulate cortex overactivity also strongly correlates with OCD. This brain region handles error detection, the sense that something's wrong and needs fixing.
Take hand washing.
After one wash, typical brains register, clean, no rewash needed. But OCD patients' anterior cingulate cortex repeatedly signals errors, feeling unclean after multiple washes, demanding immediate correction. Psychotherapy can help alleviate OCD symptoms. Treatment involves showing patients these urges stem from brain malfunctions, overly entrenched habits, and false error alerts. Therapists use habit breaking, like leaving a messy table untouched, demonstrating no harm occurs, potentially changing compulsive behaviors. For severe OCD patients, psychotherapy alone often proves insufficient. Medical supervision for medication becomes necessary. That covers the book's core content. As the saying goes, gold isn't pure, people aren't perfect. Everyone's brain has quirks. You might be intellectually gifted yet emotionally volatile, or highly intelligent yet struggle with focus, or creatively brilliant yet socially anxious. So, brain abnormalities are actually the norm. But we can scientifically optimize our brains for better adaptation. No need to stress over imperfections. After today's talk, any new perspectives on your brain? Share your thoughts in the comments section. Well, that concludes Brain Repair Manual. We'll end our book exploration here. Reading notes are below the audio. Until next time. Hello, listeners. I'm Kong Shin-sin, editor at CTIC Press. Today I'll share the backstory of Brain Repair Manual. Recent years see growing awareness of mental health issues like depression, procrastination, social anxiety, addiction, memory decline, and anxiety. People increasingly recognize how these symptoms impact work, life, and learning. But you might not know, depression-related suicides now surpass cancer and cardiovascular diseases as humanity's top killer. Paradoxically, while suspecting we have such issues, we resist admitting actual illness. We distance ourselves from mental illness labels, and our culture stigmatizes affected minorities as outsiders. We even weaponize terms like psycho or neurotic against unconventional behavior. Yet everyone experiences depression, anxiety, procrastination, addiction, or memory lapses at some point. These are all psychiatric symptoms, some temporary, some unrecognized. This inspired my work on this book. I hope we stop marginalizing ordinary people with these conditions. And if you experience symptoms, face yourself honestly to begin healing.
My chance. I met Dr. Yao Nailan, the author of this book. He earned his PhD from HKU, did postdoctoral research in psychiatry at Yale, has researched mental health for years, runs his own public account, and actively promotes science education.
When I contacted him, I learned he'd long wanted to write a book. We clicked immediately and got straight to work. The book came together naturally. Dr. Yao brings solid research credentials, extensive experience, and abundant case studies. In this book, he frames mental illness as the brain's version of a cold. Everyone may exhibit symptoms no different from common ailments. He shares fascinating stories from his own life, patients, and friends. Ordinary details we overlook become extraordinary through his professional lens. Like his panic attack case study, I bet most people have had similar experiences. During his Hong Kong PhD, weekly lab meetings with his supervisor, called boss in academia, started casually before English work reports. Suddenly, his heart hammered twice. Oh no, a heart attack, he panicked.
He urgently checked his pulse, right fingers on left wrist.
Outwardly calm, he saw his supervisor's lips moving but heard only buzzing as the world retreated, palms sweating, heart racing, until everything normalized minutes later. This recurred 6 to 7 times over 3 months, worsening each time, until midnight. Drowsy in bed, his heart suddenly rocketed to 140 beats per minute, refusing to slow.
He rushed with his roommate to Hong Kong's Queen Mary Hospital ER.
The packed ER prioritized cardiac cases. Nurses took no chances. They immediately ran tests, including an ECG, all normal except the racing heart. The author later reflected that this must have been a panic attack. This case perfectly illustrates that even high achievers experience self-doubt, and this phenomenon is actually very common. During editing, we unanimously agreed the title should be Everyone is Mentally Ill. This name aligned with the book's thesis while feeling accessible. It perfectly captured the core idea. Everyone's brain has quirks, some temporary or occasional, improving through self-adjustment or circumstance, but some issues develop into illnesses needing attention and correction. Unfortunately, this title wasn't used for various reasons. We ultimately chose the safer brain repair manual. For cover design, the artist proposed a brain scan image against a fitting blue backdrop. Then the author asked if we could use his actual scan. I said, absolutely.
So the cover you see features the author's real brain scan.
The book was finalized in late 2019, but released March 2020. By then, no need to explain, you know what happened. All offline events canceled, online efforts struggled.
Often, we relied solely on the book's merit and author's influence.
Fortunately, it succeeded, debuted on Dang Dang, JD bestseller lists, and won China Good Book April 2020. I'm lucky to have witnessed this great book's journey. But luckier still, I gained immensely from it personally. I read it 3 to 4 times during editing. The manuscript reshaped my view of mental illness. I realized I belong to this community. Self-diagnosing, I've experienced anxiety, procrastination, depression, and addiction. Recognizing these aren't rare or unique to me, I actively applied the book's methods to address them. I hope whenever life gets tough, emotions feel unstable, or your mood sinks low, you can pull out this book,
Flip through its pages. You'll definitely discover something new and valuable.
always remember, countless people share your experiences. You're not an outlier or minority. You're perfectly ordinary. That concludes the story behind Brain Repair Manual. We look forward to bringing you more great books from Citic Parrot Press. Wishing you a joyful spring festival, good health, and family happiness.